Hello, I am Candice Oneida, founder of Feminine Success Secrets YouTube channel, the place where women go to become powerfully feminine. I have a super big treat today. I've had a lot of you asking me about how to be more feminine in relationships, and so that's exactly the topic of today's discussion. And because this is not my particular genius zone, I am bringing on both an absolutely dear friend and amazing colleague whose expertise this is for you today. So this is super exciting. So I am here to introduce you to this incredible woman and the CEO and founder of The Flow of Love, Tracy Stanton.
Hello, Candice, and hello to all your viewers. Thank you. What a pleasure to be here today.
Absolutely. So what a juicy topic. And I kind of suspect just a little bit that this is going to be the first of many interviews that we do with Tracy. So let's sort of start with some good sort of foundations here, and then we'll see where we go with this. Okay. So one of the core things, so you know already that one of the core things that I teach a lot about is about feminine polarity and what that means as a woman to be and get into your feminine polarity and how that affects your life and your work. That's really where my expertise is. And that embodiment of the feminine is such a primary and foundational piece of that. Now, the relationship piece is about, okay, so when you know how to embody the feminine yourself, then, okay, now what happens in the dynamics in a relationship? And this is where I'd really like to get Tracy's input. So when you're in relationships, and this is her absolute genius zone, is how to start and build and maintain not just healthy, but thriving relationships. So what would you say about that piece, about the dynamics of polarity in relationships, Tracy?
Well, we have to remember that men fall in love with us as women, if we're talking about, male-female relationship dynamics, because of how we invite them into our hearts in a feminine way, and in regards to how we allow the masculine to lead. And so that's probably one of the key things that, if we talk about some of the principles around relationship, I would say the key one is around vulnerability and depth of feeling. And so our willingness to be vulnerable in a relationship, rather than wall up and close our hearts, is probably one of the biggest things that draws the masculine to us in a relationship context. So they're drawn because of our feminine feeling nature. So it's a lot about the feelings. I mean, I will give a live example that my husband loves it when I cry at movies. This is his favorite moment. He turns suddenly to look at me right before one of those moments where, everyone's going to cry, and he looks and he's so excited. He gets really excited, and he is so deeply moved by that because it brings forth this masculine polarity when he's experiencing the depth of feeling of the feminine. So I think we're talking about depth of feeling around the polarity.
That's so beautiful. Can you correct me if I'm wrong, because you said this to me before, and I may be misquoting you. I think you said to me that essentially in relationships, the masculine's role is to lead and the feminine role is to take to depth, or is the depth. Is that okay? Absolutely. Tell me a bit more about the depth.
Yeah, so what we're really talking about is openness meets your authenticity. Like, men love women that are fully themselves. And what does that mean? They're open to receiving love and affection. A man can spot a woman a mile away that's open. And they're called to serve women who are in their feminine radiance. Because with that kind of woman, they can offer presence. And it's not about you doing something for them. It's, can they provide for us?
That is such a big one for my women, because my women are already so capable and successful, and they know how to do so much. And so that piece right there is so big. Like, what does it take that kind of woman who's already powerful, successful, and capable to allow the masculine, allow the man to provide for her? What does
Oh my
that
God.
look like?
I mean, men want to provide. And I can tell you now, they love strong women. So let's debunk that kind of crap.
Oh, that's a good one.
Men love strong women, but they want strong women who are not afraid to be vulnerable and open. And the strength of the feminine is in the depth of vulnerability. It's about our ability to go into deep feeling, be deeply authentic, deeply present, with the men that we're in relationship with. And just on that, continuation of depth of presence, there is this deep aspect of opening fully in relationship that men love about us. They're sort of resting on our abilities to have deep opening. That's what sort of gives them the sense that they can sort of lead further when we open deeper.
And I'm hearing you say that they kind of desperately hungry for the type of woman that can take them into the depth with them. So
Absolutely.
at first we need to be able to go to depth. And one of the ways that we need to go to depth, of course, is through the vulnerability, the surrender, and the receptivity, right? So we can't expect there to be depth unless we have the courage to go to the depth first.
Absolutely. And one of the things that to point out about a woman who's really in her feminine is she actually has really strong boundaries. She has solid inner boundaries.
I think we've got a whole other video on this one, but you can
Yeah.
touch on it now. It's a big one.
Right. She has strong inner boundaries, and
inner boundaries. What does that mean?
Yeah, strong inner boundaries. She's firmly planted in the earth, and she is not giving up her values to accommodate her man. She's standing in her value or values. So when you meet somebody, when you're in your early stages of meeting a man, what you want to do is be standing in yourself with who you are, what you value, because you're obviously wanting to meet somebody, if it's a new relationship, that has similar values to you. And if you start changing early on for him, he's going to think you're somebody else. That's not going to work. And so
and yet how many times have women done that, where they've turned up and gone, oh, I need to present myself differently, especially the super bright, successful ones. It's like you're bunking a lot of myths today. Like, be smart, be successful, bring yourself forward, but don't make that something that becomes a closing or a pushing off or a pushing away or a lack of sensitivity or vulnerability.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
You still want to be soft. The ability to be fully present in your power, your intelligence, but also let the guy lead. It could be as simple as softening the body. I mean, the body is, you teach your women this, I'm sure already, but the way we soften to allow him to lead us, or to, like, we don't, how do we invite him in? That's my favorite one, like invitation. How are we inviting the masculine into our feminine space?
And that can be with words, but it's the big thing is really this sort of embodiment, energetic invitation, isn't it? So I'm not inviting a man in if I'm sitting across the dating table like this, am I?
Not at all.
But
and
but
certainly
how do I do it in a way that's
softening with the hair, the movement, just this, this whole softening. But also, one of the biggest things for me, slowing down. Slowing down.
Listen, ladies, listen. I speak about this a lot.
Slowing down, slowing the whole thing down. Slowing down. We slow down to feel more. Even if feeling more means not feeling all good things, there's still authenticity. Men aren't saying be happy all the time. Men are saying be real, be yourself. So you may slow down and then you feel pain. So, for example, sometimes with my husband, I will be like, ooh, that doesn't, that's a bit uncomfortable. That doesn't feel so good. And I just let myself have that feeling. And
rather than deflecting onto them as causing the feeling or being the ones that are at blame for that. Let yourself have the moment to breathe, digest, and feel.
yeah, there's something about softening into the moment with a partner where you're just fully in the body. There's nothing more alluring to a man than a woman who's in her body, that's really in her breath and in her body. You know, we forget to breathe. That's part of the slowing down. It was like we're not in our body and we're not in our breath. We're like, it's like,
breathe
how
out.
can you breathe?
That's one of the big things I teach about the feminine is the masculine is the in-breath as to the feminine that is the out-breath. And the out-breath is not just obviously actually breathing, although that's important. It's the recognition that we can't be breathing all the time, doing, working, and having no space and out-breath.
Absolutely. I mean, the out-breath is our digestion. It's where we assimilate. It's where we have our biggest experiences as women. Often the out-breath is where we all, we go, let's say we're a power woman. I actually had one of my clients this morning. She's at an interview, really high-powered interview. She comes away, she's having an out-breath and she's feeling all this emotion. And I just said, give yourself that. Give yourself the rest of the day.
Digest.
Be in the feminine, be really soft. What would that look like?
I don't know if you relate to this, Tracy, but I definitely do. That I find that in the out breath, at first, as a sort of high-powered, knowing how to be in man mode kind of woman that I came from, when I've learned how to do the basic level of self-care of giving space between tasks and allowing some space to digest, when I really do that well, that's when I get this flood of inspiration. And so you digest what's happened, but it also creates the fertile ground for new things to come in. And I'm wondering how you could talk about that with regard to the relationship dynamic.
Exactly. I was actually going to say to you that when, as women, we don't give ourselves the self-love care time, like men actually want us to take care of ourselves, and they like it when that comes back to a little bit around the boundaries again. Like we create boundaries to love and care for ourselves, spend time with friends, spend time in nature, do the things that make us feel really
nourished.
Good. Nourished, exactly.
Yeah.
Then we come back to our relationship in the feminine polarity rather than stressed out, uptight, tight, closed, not emotionally available. And so there's definitely this aspect of taking that time in a relationship context that's equally as important to the relationship. So I know for myself, there's what I call relationship time, and then there's Tracy time. And Tracy time is so that I come back feeling full of spirit, so that when I greet him, I'm in my joy and in my radiance and I'm in my juiciness.
Filled up. You've been filled up on the feminine, on the juiciness, on the girl time, and on the digestion. Yeah.
Exactly.
I do have a quick question, because quite a lot of my subscribers are trying to get a relationship. Yeah. And I know you have this incredible relationship, a man who I love and adore. But there are many that are watchers that are kind of, okay, well, how do I do this in the sort of the early stages of dating, and like what am I needing to do to be authentic and to be able to be authentic, be myself, and also shine my feminine radiance?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I mean, one of the first things I would say is, if you're actively dating, have you created space for it in your schedule? I.e., for example,
that's a good one.
Oh yeah, for example, I don't just mean the physical date, I mean the pre-date, getting yourself in the mood, getting yourself in a groove. You might put on music, that pre-date experience is actually as important as the date.
Oh, that's a good one.
So no rushing from a meeting, no. If you've been in man mode all day, how long does it take you to get out of it? Because I know you use the term man mode a lot. It's not one of my terms as much, but I get, if
That's
you've
my
been in
moment.
that, if you've been in that all day and you're going on a date, that dating experience requires you to be in your feminine. Then what are you going to do before pre-date to get there?
What sort of
Like,
things would you suggest?
oh, I mean, things that some of my ladies love is they put on music, they start dancing around, they actually get really in their bodies. So they start like feeling themselves. Sometimes they bathe, long bath, they might do essential oils, they just, and sometimes it's even quiet time. It's different
Mm,
for every woman. I mean, I want to be clear that I do incredibly well with quiet time. I love silence, and I like this lightness
me
of the
too.
silence, being able to move
Mm,
quietly in the silence where everything's very light. And
mm.
so I have as much joy in that as I do in music but there's something about inhabiting the body and making that time really key and not rushing straight out of a work situation to a date.
And would you say also that sort of pre that, the sort of the preparation or because let's face it, almost everybody here is going to be meeting people online these days. It's just how it is, or
Yeah,
largely. That
absolutely.
the creating of the space needs to be sort of this sort of mental, psychological, and literal creating of space for the dating process. And that could mean the following up with the messaging. It could
Totally.
be creating some spaces in the week where you do the initial dates. How else would you
Yeah.
get
So,
that set up space?
so when a woman is looking at calling in love, there needs to be literally an energetic space created from the beginning of, let's say you could give yourself 6 months. Let's say you say, I'm going to take 6 months out of my schedule. It doesn't mean you don't
Oh,
work. You actually just set aside energetically enough time to do this well and fully.
beautiful.
And I was really lucky because at the time when I was looking for love, because this was my work, I made it like 100% priority. I created a lot of space in my schedule, and I let people know I'm in dating mode and I'm not going to be spending time with you as much. And
Except for us having to check her OkCupid profile very so
exactly,
often.
except for a few close friends who were the confidants, who were the people who were going to just check in with me
And that's a
around
good
what was
piece,
happening.
actually, too, isn't it? I
Yeah,
mean,
it's a great piece.
for me, that I learned a lot by helping you with that, and I'm sure that helped you to get a sort of different set of eyes, that sense of community and tribe support, which is so feminine in of itself, right?
Yeah, I mean, just on that, it's really great. You start the dating process and you go into it, and when you've got into it, if you've met somebody, you do want to, your friends, your girlfriends, not just girlfriends, male friends too, you want to let people see where you're at with it. You may even want them to meet him fairly early on. I mean, there's always this sort of line, because in the early phases of a relationship, if it is something really important, you also want to keep it incredibly held and quite sacred. So there's a balance there between those two pieces.
Yeah,
Um, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, beautiful. Um, I think that we're going to wrap up today, because the thing is, I've literally heard 6 different themes that I'd like to go down. And
Great.
you and I can literally and have spoken about this for hundreds of hours. And
Yes.
so I'm thinking that this is a good taste. And you've given
Yeah,
such incredibly rich information today, Tracy. It teaches me things every time,
beautiful.
and your presence is always so beautiful and nourishing, and you're so learned and knowledgeable. Both, this woman studies a lot around relationships, she reads voraciously, and then she puts things into action from the very inception of the dating process, through early stage dating, through a mature and maturing relationship, and she knows about all of the stages. And she's such an incredible resource, and we are going to talk again on the
Yeah.
channel. I hope
Let us
she's
talk again.
available. But she's also said that she's
Great.
very, very generously going to offer something to the viewers today if they
Yeah.
are interested. And what do you have to offer to them?
Well, I'm really happy to offer my 50-minute love strategy sessions for those ladies who feel they're ready for deeper intimacy and love in their lives. My big focus is on depth of intimacy, whether you're in that looking for love phase or whether you're already in a relationship and you're needing a little more help and wanting to go deeper. So,
Beautiful. Thank
yeah.
you so much. And what we're going to do is we're going to put the information on how to access Tracy and her incredibly generous offer today below in the description box. Okay.
Great.
So otherwise, I just want to thank you from the depth of my heart for getting on the call today. I love you dearly, you know that, and I love the work that you're doing. It's so beautifully aligned, and this is a deeply spiritual woman here. She does it from this very, very deeply, richly aligned place. And so thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
And I just want to remind the viewers that if you're seeing this for the first time, you haven't subscribe over here to my channel.
Yes,
And
subscribe to the channel.
and remember that when we have the courage to go out there and shine, we give others permission to do the same. So let's go out there and shine this week. Bye-bye for now.